Well, hello there, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Welcome to another episode of Steelers Friday Night Six Pack. I am your host, as always, Tony Defio, and I thank you for joining me on this lovely Friday evening in Pittsburgh. It's late October. It's almost Halloween. Can you believe it? And before I continue with tonight's show, first of all, as always, I want to wish you all a great evening wherever you happen to be, or a great day if you're listening to me somewhere else around the world other than Pittsburgh, or if you're listening on a different day on an audio platform. I hope it's pleasant wherever you are. And before I continue with tonight's show, I just want to ask you to please like and subscribe to our Behind the Store Curtain YouTube channel. We bring you live shows each and every day and night, including this show. Earlier on Friday, if you were watching on YouTube, you saw the Touchdown Under with Matty Peverall and Mark Davison, the fine gents from Australia. They always bring you fantastic Steelers coverage. We Run the North with Kevin Tate and his buddies, where they talk about all things AFC North. We have The Hangover on Mondays with Brian Anthony Davis and Shannon White, and yours truly. On Tuesday, we have the Scobro Show with Dave Schofield and Rich Schofield. On Wednesday, we have Know Your Enemy with Jeffrey Benedict and Shannon. On Thursday, we have the critically acclaimed Steelers preview with Jeff Hartman, Dave, and Brian. Let's see. Of course, you can catch all those shows also live on Facebook. And if you're watching me on Facebook right now, you know that. Hello. And you can catch all those shows on any audio platform after the fact. If you don't want to listen live, you can listen anywhere you download podcasts. You can find Behind the Steel Curtain's channel. And Behind the Steel Curtain also has audio-only shows, a whole family of those. We have Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman. We have The Steelers Fix with Jeremy Betts and Andrew Wilbar. We have Bad Language with Brian Anthony Davis. We have the Stat Geek with Dave Schofield. We have the War Room with Maddie. We have What Yin's Talking About with Kyle Kreis and his buddies over there on the West Coast. We have From the Cutting Room Floor with Jeffrey Benedict. So we have great shows for you there on the audio side. So please check that out. And again, you can check them out on any audio platform. And please check out Behind the Steel Curtain, the website. We're bringing news, commentary, film breakdown. Anytime there's Steelers-related news, anytime somebody has an opinion, anytime somebody wants to break down film, they do it on Behind the Steel Curtain. You can find it there. So let's see who we have in a live chat tonight. Let's see who was first. Daredevil. He finally gets one. Good job, Daredevil. And DJ2 says Fire Tomlin with a bunch of exclamation marks, but there's no hashtag. You have to put the hashtag in there for it to count. Kathy Ford is with us, and she's greeting us from Fort Worth. Is that Texas or is it Indiana? I don't know. I don't know my cities. I think it's Indiana. Who knows? It might be one in each state. I flunked geography. But welcome, Kathy. George Teston is with us. Allie Howard. I haven't seen Allie Howard in a while. Good to see you. Stacy Lynn is with us. Brian Brown, the always popular Brian Brown. Bernie Young, a new one from Facebook. Welcome, Bernie. T-Bar, another new face from YouTube. Welcome. And that's it. Oh, and George Teston counters with hashtag hire Tomlin or hire Tony. Wow. Oh, wow. I was going to compliment Tomlin with that, but no, that's about me. And my ego is sufficiently massaged. So thank you, George. So let's talk about those Steelers. And of course, if you were paying attention to Steelers related news on Friday, you heard that TJ Watt, who's been out of action since late in week one with a torn pectoral injury, and he had a knee problem from the preseason that he had surgery on while he was on the injured reserve list. So he's been out for a while, and word came on Friday from the horse's mouth. Wow, man, I gotta start rehearsing these little quips I throw in there. Anyway, Watt himself said he might play this Sunday against the Eagles. That's big news. I'm I haven't heard any insiders, any local insiders or national insiders really dispute that. A lot of people think it's a 50-50 proposition at this point. I haven't heard anything as of airtime. So I guess we'll find out between now and Sunday. Maybe it's a game time decision. Maybe we'll find out Sunday morning. But that sure would be big news for the Steelers and their defense, because I think their defense has struggled without Watt in there. There's no question about it. But they had 7 sacks since in week 1 with Watt in there, and they've had 5 since then in the 6 games since then. They had 5 takeaways in that game against the Bengals in week 1, and they've had 5 since then. So obviously TJ Watt's the big straw that stirs the drink for that defense and for the team in general. I mean, he's the new face of the franchise, and that's one of the things really that's, that kind of gets left unsaid. And I talked about this a lot after that week 1 win in Cincinnati. People were saying, why are you so down? They won. Yeah, but they lost their new face of their franchise less than 60 game minutes after their old face of the franchise retired, Ben Roethlisberger, last year. So you lose the most important piece to your team, and you knew coming into this year it was going to be a struggle for them anyway. So they lose that guy, and you see what's happened with the defense. And I realize people have always defended the defense, or they like to defend the defense, especially in Pittsburgh. It's sentimental, it's nostalgic. We're all about defense in Pittsburgh, and the defense, did a good job. For example, against Miami the other day, in that 16-10 loss on Sunday Night Football that dropped Pittsburgh to 2-5, and the defense did a good job against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady a week before at Acrisure Stadium, that 20-18 victory. But look at the overall stats of the defense. It's ranked 28th, I think, right now. Yeah, 28th in the NFL. I mentioned the takeaways and the sacks without Watt in there. You saw the game on Sunday night against Miami. They dropped four interceptions that could have turned the tide, and certainly led to 6 points for the Dolphins and what became a 6-point loss. So, the defense has clearly missed Watt, and it's not been the same without Watt, and it's not a dominant defense. And there's more to. I know it sounds funny to say, and it sounds weird to say, and it's counterintuitive to say, or maybe even just plain stupid to say. But there's more to defense than just limiting the other team to a certain point total. You have to be able to affect the game with splash plays. Mike Tomlin mentioned that after the game on Sunday night. You have to be able to change field position. You have to be able to shift the momentum in the game with a sack, with a takeaway. And this team just has not been able to do much of that without Watt. So him possibly coming back against the Eagles, that could be huge. I don't know if he does come back and play. I don't know if it's going to be as a full-time participant or if he's going to be on a quote-unquote snap count or a pitch count, but I guess we'll find out. But it is exciting. If they're going to have any real shot at getting back into the race, then they're probably going to have to try to steal this game against the Eagles. And really, I don't see much of a chance of them doing that unless somebody like Watt comes in and plays like he did in week 1 against the Bengals, or like he did in 2021 when he led the NFL in sacks with 22.5, and he won Defensive Player of the Year. Other than that, I don't see them winning this game. So we'll have to continue to pay attention to that possible. What's the word I'm looking for? To that ongoing news story. But as far as other stuff is on the injury front, from Friday, Chris Boswell is now on the injury list with a groin injury. Larry Ogunjobi is out. Levi Wallace is again out. And to me, that's, and nobody can help getting injured. But there was so much hope for both Ogunjobi and Wallace coming into this year. I think people truly, genuinely believe that Wallace could be a replacement for Joe Hayden, an adequate replacement for Joe Hayden, who they moved on from after 2021. And when he's been in there, he has not looked like somebody who is an upgrade over Joe Hayden. And he's also had just multiple injury issues. And Ogunjobi, he had the foot issue, the foot surgery in the offseason that kind of cost him a big contract. I think it was in Chicago. And, Pittsburgh signed him to a 1-year deal, and the hope was that he could come in here and replace Stephon Tuitt and be the missing piece for that line and to be a big help alongside Cam Hayward that the line didn't have last year. And now Ogunjobi's out this week. Well, first of all, it took him a while to come on this year, but he played lights out against the Bucs 2 weeks ago. So there was hope that he would continue to to improve and to be the player that he had been in recent years. But now he's out again with an injury. And on top of that, the Marvin Leal, who showed so much promise over the first 5 or 6 games, he's on injured reserve. So, that's just 2 big blows for this defensive line. So, they're going to have to try to generate a pass rush and stay stout against the run without Ogunjobi in there along with Leal. So it's going to be a big challenge for them on that front. So I guess people like Isaiah Loudermilk are going to take on a bigger role, I would assume, moving forward. Chris Wormley, of course, people like that. So that's the injury news. To review some of the Dolphins game, I kind of touched on that already. I think I thought the defense played pretty well in that game. Even though I've just said it's been a disappointment this year, it did play pretty well, especially in the second half after they adjusted to Tua and the Dolphins offense. I mean, I think they did a decent job shutting down Tyreek Hill, and even Waddle. I mean, Miami jumped out to a 13-0 lead, and Pittsburgh was able to close within 16-10 at halftime, and it looked like the Steelers had the momentum. But if you go back and look at the end of that first half, after Pittsburgh closed to 13-10 on the Pickett to Pickens touchdown, the defense gave up a long drive to Miami's offense right after that, and Miami reached the Pittsburgh 28, and Tua tried to find, I think it was Hill down the left sideline, and it looked like Cam Sutton was in perfect position to intercept the pass, and actually he got 2 hands on it. And if he comes down with that pick there, it's 13-10 at halftime instead of 16-10 because the Dolphins went on to kick a field goal after Sutton dropped that interception. So the entire second half could have been different for Pittsburgh, how they went about it on offense. You're chasing a field goal at that point and not a touchdown. To try to win the game. Maybe the last 2 drives that Pittsburgh had, they moved the ball really well, especially the second to last drive. And at one point, it was 3rd and 1 deep in Miami territory. And they try a quarterback sneak, but they use some funky motion alignment, and they got called for illegal formation. And on the next play, who was it? Was it Dan Moore was called for holding? So next thing you know, it goes from 3rd and 1 to 3rd and 16, and Pickett throws the really a bad pass, and it was intercepted. And then the last drive, Pickett makes some really fine throws, especially the one to Freiermuth down the middle of the field on 4th down, on 4th and 4. And I think they reached the 25-yard line. Miami's 25 with 20 seconds left, 18 seconds left, and Pickett is rolling to his left, and it looks like he has all the time in the world, or all the room in the world, I should say, to run for a first down and get out of bounds. But they had no timeouts left, and again it was the clock was ticking, so he tries to hit Johnson in the end zone. It looked like a bit of a miscommunication, and it was intercepted, and it was game over. So, it was another just horrible performance by the offense. There's no question. I mean, it was predicted. The play calling seemed predictable. There was no flow to it. You didn't seem like it never seems like they're trying to set anything up with their play sequencing. It's just run on first down, run on second down, pass on third down. It's 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 7, and they're running 5-yard routes and passing it short of the sticks over and over again. The same thing that we've seen. They rarely use the middle of the field except for at the end. It seems like at the end of games, like we saw in week 1, and then we saw in Miami the other day with the pass to Freiermuth. It's just the same old story with the offense, and I don't know what more can be said about it other than changes have to be made. But it doesn't look like any changes are going to be made. But there were rumors that came out over the course of the week that if they have a bad game again in Philadelphia offensively, if they fail to score points or a lot of points, that Matt Canada could be fired. I mean, I don't know if how much that's going to help this year, but it would certainly bring about a new play caller. So maybe that would change some things. I mean, you're not going to change the playbook in the middle of the year. Even if you fire Matt Canada, you're going to use the same playbook. You're just going to hope for a better approach with, I guess, Mike Sullivan would be elevated. That's the assumption at this point, that he would be elevated to offensive coordinator if Canada is fired mid-season. I guess we'll have to find out. But again, the defense could have done more to bail the offense out, or to make life a little bit better for the offense. And I always laugh when people, I've had this argument with people for years about an opportunistic defense and how, it's not luck so much as it's skill. Skill is what skilled players, playmakers, splash players. They know how to create turnovers. They know how to do that. We've seen that with Micah Fitzpatrick since he's become a Steeler, or since he became a Steeler in 2019. Obviously, TJ Watt is pretty good at creating turnovers, right? The occasional fumble that finds its way back to the offense. There might be some luck involved every now and then with that. If the ball bounces a certain way, we saw that at the end of the Bucs game a couple weeks ago when that Mason Cole snap went wide of Trubisky, and he somehow managed to dive on it before the Bucs defenders could. But that's a fluky thing. But when you're talking about dropping 4 interceptions, 4 pretty easy interceptions in a game, that's not luck. That's skill, and we saw it with Cam Sutton in week 2 against the Patriots, and how, if he holds on to a really bad pass by Mac Jones in the third quarter, that could have changed that game, right? Earlier in that game, Killer Witherspoon, he has great coverage on, I forget the receiver in that game, but I think it was Jacoby Myers. It doesn't matter. He has great coverage, but he doesn't turn around to make a play and intercept an interceptable pass. Instead, the receiver makes the great play and scores a touchdown there. So, you know, and when people talk about turnovers being just a matter of luck and not skill, by the way, I apologize for once again being muted in the middle of my show, but hopefully I wasn't muted for that long. Looks like maybe a minute or so. I apologize. Anyway, yes, I was muted. I'm sorry, live chat. But I guess I have to get a new mic. I don't know what's up with this, but when people talk about turnovers being a matter of luck and not skill, it's not true. We saw Pittsburgh's how good Pittsburgh's defense was at taking a football away 2 years ago, right? When they had Bud Dupree and T.J. Watt and Joe Hayden was still here, Steven Nelson, obviously Minka Fitzpatrick. Those were playmakers, right? They had a whole core of playmakers. We saw it in the Super Bowl days, right? When you had Troy Polamalu, Ryan Clark, James Harrison, Lamar Woodley, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. James Ferrier. You had a great group of playmakers on that defense. And then what happened when they all got old and moved on? The defense could not take the ball away. And they struggled at it for years, from like 2011 through probably 2016, 17. They were really just not good at taking the ball away and creating turnovers. I mean, they were averaging like 18, 19 takeaways a year. That's not going to get it done. I don't care where you rank in, yardage or if you're not sacking the quarterback and getting after and taking the ball away, you're not a complete defense. And that's what we've seen from this unit since week one without TJ Watt. So, I guess if he does come back, hopefully this Sunday, but whenever he does make his return, if it's not this Sunday, it's going to be after the bye week. There's no question about that against the Saints. We'll be able to see just how important we already know how important he is, but hopefully he makes that much of a difference again. So, on that note, at the 23:30 mark, I'm going to take a short little break and let you hear a word from our sponsors. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Steelers Six-Pack on this lovely Friday night. And again, I want to apologize for my once again being muted during the first half of the show. And thank you for the live chat for alerting me to that. And I got a $2 super chat from Kathy Ford, who says, Mike Find. I don't know what that means, but maybe she meant Mike Fine. My mic is fine. I don't know. But thank you for the $2, Kathy. That's very nice of you. All right. So let's talk about Kenny Pickett. And Stacy Lynn says, I think the ghosts are messing with you, Tony. Yes, it's almost Halloween. And it does seem like my mic is haunted every Friday night. So, yeah, maybe there's something to it. Mike Fund. Okay, that makes more sense. All right. Kathy says have a mic fund. But see, that's the thing. My mic's not that bad. I don't know why it's maybe it's my computer. Who knows? I don't know. But it's fun coming on here and rambling on and talking with you guys. So, if I'm muted a few seconds here and there, that's fine. But let's talk about Kenny Pickett and the game he had on Sunday night against the Dolphins. He struggled. I mean, he made some decent throws, and obviously he looked really good on those last two drives of the game. But each drive ended with a bad interception. And of course, he threw one earlier in the game. But I don't blame him for that. That's more Chase Claypool's fault for I don't even know if it's Claypool's fault, but Claypool got tripped up and fell, and the ball was intercepted. So, but he did have 3 picks, and he has 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions so far, and 12 plus quarters of action as an NFL quarterback. The offense has looked. I mean, the results have been just as bad as they were with Mitch Trubisky. So, you haven't seen an improvement with Kenny Pickett in there. So people are a little concerned about that. But I'm okay with Pickett's struggles because I think it's more common to see a young quarterback, a rookie quarterback, struggle like Pickett has than to come on the scene like Dan Marino did in '83, or even Big Ben did in '04, and really have success early on. It's usually how it goes for rookie quarterbacks who are starters in the NFL. More often than not, the team around them is not very good. The '83 Dolphins, they were in the Super Bowl a year earlier. They had a really good team. They got lucky that there were some weird rumors about Dan Marino and drug use, and that's allowed him to fall to the 27th pick in the '83 draft. Obviously, the '04 Steelers were pretty darn good. Or they had a pretty good roster, I should say. They were coming off a bad year, but that was kind of a fluky bad year. Tommy Maddox was the quarterback, and for whatever reason, they were trying to be a pass first team under Bill Cowher for the first time ever, when they had traditionally been a run first team with Jerome Bettis. And that was the year that Cowher tried to replace Bettis with Amos Zaraway as starting running back. Didn't quite work out. So it was a kind of a fluky year, and they finished 6-10. But that roster was so stacked. And we know what that. I mean, that was essentially the roster that would go on and win Super Bowl 40. You're talking about, obviously, Bettis was on that team. Deuce Staley, they signed him in the offseason. They had a great offensive line. Alan Faneca, Jeff Hardings, Marvell Smith, Kendall Simmons. I mean, they had a really good offensive line. Hines Ward, Plexico Burrs was on that team. Obviously, the defense was fantastic. Joey Porter, Aaron Smith, Kimo von Oelhoffen. That was James Ferrier was the best player on that defense that year. He was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. They had Ike Taylor. So, am I missing anybody? I don't want to miss any legends. Larry Foote was on that defense. Gosh, I'm probably gonna. Oh, Casey Hampton. I mean, gosh, Dick LeBeau. He came back to be the defensive coordinator that year. So it was a really darn good team. And Big Ben was more of a complimentary piece for that '04 Steelers team than he was the savior. People dubbed him the savior, but he really wasn't a savior. He was just obviously the talent was pretty evident, but it was also evident that they were kind of bringing him along slowly, and they had the ability to do that because they had such a good team. They were number one against the run, or they were number one running the ball that year. They had the best defense in the NFL that year. I mean, it was a great team, and Ben Roethlisberger attempted 295 passes that year. Could you imagine that? 295 passes. And what did he play in 14 and a half games? Kenny Pickett in a little over 3 games of action has already attempted 127 passes. Pittsburgh's offense is ranked 30th in the NFL this year. The running game is awful, 27th. The passing game, obviously, is not really good either. So, this is more what a rookie quarterback has to deal with, as a starter. So you just have to keep trotting him out there each and every week. As I've been saying, the most important aspect of the 2022 season is the development of Kenny Pickett. I know there's always this urge with the organization and with the fans to, try to do whatever you can to make it into the playoffs. Get into the dance. Anything can happen. 9-8. Get that 7th seed. You never know. And I get it. And I'm not suggesting that they're gonna tank because that's not in their DNA. But I think you have to keep sending Pickett out there, come hell or high water, no matter what's going on, no matter how much he struggles, barring injury, he has to stay in there and he has to take his lumps, and the team in general has to grow together. It's an incredibly young offense. I think it's the youngest offense in the NFL. I want to say that's what Shannon was saying on Monday, but we all know, based on last year, it's one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. They're clearly rebuilding, even though they paid the defense so much, it's, they have 3 new corners from 2 years ago. They have, they're revamping the line, the defensive line, the linebackers, inside linebackers. Highsmith has replaced Bud Dupree. They're a different team than even a couple of years ago. So obviously the offensive line is completely new. So you have to just let them find a way to deal with these growing pains, find a way to get better, keep your head down and keep going through hell till you get to the other side, right? I mean, you look at the Eagles last year. I think they were the 7th seed. They kind of struggled most of the year, and they found a way to make the playoffs. Jalen Hurts was considered kind of a bust as recently as last year. I think the coach was Nick Sirianni. He wasn't considered to be a great coach. And now look at them. They stuck with Hurts through 3 years, and here he is in year 3. And I'm not saying he's an MVP candidate, but he is a talent. You can see it. And they have a great running game. They have a great offensive line. Hurts is the kind of RPO style quarterback that Pittsburgh wants to have. He's able to throw and run. They have 2 turnovers on offense all year, and they lead the league in takeaways on defense. They're 14-2. So they're plus 12. So, and that defense is just fantastic. Fletcher Cox. I swear to God, that guy's been with them for 20 years, but I guess not. But he's a great player. They have 17 sacks this year. They lead the NFL with 9 interceptions. So, they have a great offensive line. They have a great defensive line. Javon Hargrave is there. They just traded for the I forget his name, Roberts something from the Bears. He had 18 sacks last year. He struggled this year. He only has 1, but now he's on a really good team, so he doesn't have to be the man. So he's probably going to be more effective for them as a pass rusher specialist. So it's a good team, the Eagles. And this is kind of what you want Pittsburgh to model themselves after, I think. Find a way to continue to revamp the offensive line, find a way to get better in the trenches on defense, and develop a sound running game, and obviously allow Pickett to continue to develop despite his struggles. So I think you're going to be impressed with this Eagles team on Sunday. Now, hopefully Pittsburgh can find a way to stay in the game, even without TJ Watt. The Eagles aren't nearly as dominant as the Bills are. And I don't anticipate it being like a 38-3 kind of game again, like it was when Pittsburgh went to Buffalo a few weeks ago. But I do expect Pittsburgh to struggle to win this game. The Eagles are a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, and they're going to be playing in Philadelphia, where Pittsburgh hasn't won since 1965. So it's going to be a challenge. hopefully the defense can rise to the occasion and keep it close. Maybe come up with a turnover or two, which is going to be a tall task because the Eagles are so good at taking care of the football, and because Pittsburgh is so bad at taking the football away without Watt in there. But I don't anticipate this being the week that the offense puts it together or has an effective showing. So it's, Pittsburgh's best bet to win this game is to keep it low scoring, another 17-10, 16-10, 20-18 kind of game. And hopefully a bounce or two will go their way and they can steal a win in Philadelphia, break that 57 game or year streak there, and go into the bye at 3-5, which honestly wouldn't look too bad with Watt coming back. So those are my thoughts for the night, and I will allow you guys to share your thoughts, and I will highlight your questions and highlight your comments. Myra, I can never say that word. Myra, Jane, and Bert from Hawaii, right? From Hawaii, I think I got that part right. Says, yes, play Pickett through good and bad. I agree. Well, I said that earlier. So yes, obviously I agree. This is from Brian Brown. If the Steelers offense is horrid again Sunday, and it's so sad, it very well might. Do you think the Steelers would finally say enough is enough and fire Matt Canada over the bye? Actually, I do. Now, people have been saying, well, they don't do that kind of thing. Well, you only have to do something once to break a trend. So I can certainly see them moving on from Matt Canada. If it's another game where the offense can only score, a touchdown or not even a touchdown, absolutely. Stacy Lynn asks rhetorically, if Pickett doesn't play, how is he supposed to get experience? I say let him play. I agree. I've always been an advocate of that, Stacy and everybody else. You draft the quarterback in the first round. If your team is not expected to really be a major contender, and if it's a young team, which most teams that aren't contenders are usually pretty young, put your quarterback out there, your rookie out there with the rest of the team, and let them all grow together. I've always believed in that. I wish more teams would do that. It might have been easy for Philadelphia, for example, to move on from Jalen Hurts after his early struggles and maybe draft somebody in the first round. But instead, they stuck with him, and now it's starting to pay off. And who knows where his career can go from here. I mean, he might get better and better and turn into one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL before too long. George Teston responds to Brian Brown's question and says they may fire him by halftime. That would definitely be unprecedented. Todd from YouTube says, let the young man Pickett develop his craft. Patience, Steelers Nation. This one is from Randy Wagner from YouTube, who says, I knew what Canada was last year. Why didn't the Steelers management know? Well, there have been some theories about that. Number one, there was the belief that they really couldn't implement Canada's offense last year because Ben Roethlisberger was still here, and he had a completely different skill set than what Canada's offense required. He wasn't mobile at all anymore at the age of 39 last year, meaning Roethlisberger, and he was used to the Todd Haley, Randy Fichtner type of offense, and they kind of kept that offense last year with Ben at quarterback. So that's why why maybe people wanted to give Canada the benefit of the doubt coming into 2022. You knew they were going to get a new quarterback. You knew he was going to be more athletic, supposedly more capable of running Canada's offense. And you saw that they went out and they got Trubisky early on in free agency. after watching him play, one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the NFL, without a doubt. And of course, they drafted Kenny Pickett, who's no slouch in the mobility department himself. So that was another reason. But, when you see them running the same kind of stuff with mobile quarterbacks that they ran with Ben Roethlisberger, that tells me that maybe Matt Canada just was never the guy to promote to that spot after Fichtner. If he wanted to move on from Fichtner, fine. But why Matt Canada? A guy who only had one good year in college, really. I mean, if you look at his resume, he's moved around a ton, and he's only had one good year, and that was back in 2016 when he was the Pitt Panthers OC. And it was a great year, but that's his only bright spot on his resume offensively. So, and this one from Stacy Lynn says, glad Haley is gone. He was another bad coach. That's interesting you say that, because there are a lot of people who are starting to see Haley in a new light with all these struggles with offense over the last few years. I mean, Haley, you can say what you want about him. I mean, he is a bit of a jerk of a person. It's hard to dispute that. And he's apparently very hard to work with. Just ask Ben Roethlisberger, who didn't seem to like him. But, they had such great success with him, especially from like 2014 through 2017. I mean, they had one of the best offenses in the NFL year in and year out. I mean, they had obviously Antonio Brown, Bell, and a great offensive line, and Ben had the best years of his career. And maybe that's why Haley, looking back on it, maybe that's why Haley had so much success here, because he had the horses to get the job done. But I mean, Haley's track record overall, I mean, it's pretty darn good. I mean, he had a lot of success in Arizona when he was their OC. He went to Kansas City for a cup of coffee as the head coach. Didn't have quite the same success on offense, but he got them to the playoffs. So, I think he's certainly the most credible man to hold that position for them since Bruce Arians. So maybe that's the key, is to get yourself some horses on offense and a credible offensive coordinator. So right now they don't appear to have either of those in large supply. This one is from Ryder Asgood. Thanks, Tony, for what you do. I enjoy your shows and what you add. Question, in your opinion, why are some fans so quick to judge Mitch and Kenny and to be negative? From a diehard fan, I don't get it. That's just fans. I mean, it's always been fans. I mean, fans are they don't have the patience that maybe a team has, because they want results right away, because they judge the team against what everybody else is doing. And if you see the Bills offense going up and down the field each and every week, the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes doing their thing each and every week, why can't Pittsburgh do that? They don't really necessarily want to. They don't want to buy the sentiment that Pittsburgh doesn't have the talent that those other teams have. What do Steeler fans always say? They have just as much talent as anybody. That's like one of their popular refrains. They have just as much talent as anybody in the league, but obviously they don't. I think we've seen these struggles for 4 years with this offense. Why are they so hard on Trubisky and Pickett? Same reason why they were hard on Rudolph when he was the starter for brief periods, because it's the most scrutinized position in all of sports, and it's that's the quarterback's the player that the fans see on each and every play. I mean, you see what he does each and every time the ball is snapped. So that's why they're quick to want to move on, especially if they're not getting the job done. I'm surprised that I'm kind of waiting for that moment when people start calling for Mason Rudolph to start. That would be something, wouldn't it? If people started calling for that, because that's the only place left to go is why don't they see what Rudolph can do, which would be such a ironic thing to hear. And this one is from Todd again, and he says, remember Josh Allen's first year? He's come a long way. Exactly. He really struggled. And we can go back to so many first-year quarterbacks. Obviously, Terry Bradshaw's a great example from the past. That's ancient history by now, but that's an example. I'm going to say, who else struggled? There was another famous one that struggled. Troy Aikman's one who struggled in '89. He really struggled. Brett Favre was just a undisciplined, just no attention to detail. He gained a bunch of weight when he was with the Falcons, and he didn't look like anybody who would ever develop into anything. And then when he retired, he became a first ballot Hall of Famer. Or by the time he retired, he was the first ballot Hall of Famer. So there are, a lot of examples of great quarterbacks struggling early on. So Peyton Manning's another one. He threw 28 picks his first year, 1998. This one is from Dark Storm 1, who says, I just hope to see some positives by year's end they can build off of for next year. And that brings me back to the point about Pickett's development being the most important thing. He's if he turns out to be the guy, then that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for this organization, because it does for every organization. When you find a quarterback, it's so much easier to fit all the other pieces around him. They were just lucky in 2004 to have all the pieces except for the quarterback, and then they found the quarterback, and he made them go as they lifted him up, but he was also so talented that he was able to do some things on that great canvas of a Steelers team in 2004 and 2005. Whereas Pickett, he's coming into a situation where if he can't lift up the entire roster around him, the team's going to struggle or continue to struggle. And obviously that's usually unrealistic for a rookie quarterback to come in and lift up a bad football team. And I'm not sure if Ben Roethlisberger would have been able to do anything with this team his rookie year. He probably would have struggled just as much, Again, if you go back and read Bill Cowher's Heart of Steel book, or Heart and Steel, I always forget the title of that book. When I bring it up, I gotta research that book. Anyway, I read it last year. It was a great book. And he said that basically Roethlisberger had half the playbook available to him. They really simplified things throughout that year, but again, they had the luxury of doing that because they had a great team around him, whereas Pickett does not have that luxury right now. And this one is from Todd. Another one from Todd. Todd's very active tonight. If PK only had to throw 18 times a game like Roethlisberger, he'd be 5-0 too. Exactly. Yeah. Or maybe he's talking about Jalen Hurts. But yeah, that's ideal for a rookie quarterback. You only want those guys to throw 18, 20, maybe 25 times a game. And he's chucking it around 45, 50 times a game. Because, first of all, they've been behind just about every game. And number two, the running game's just been so suspect. And there's one from Steelers Freak, and it's worth mentioning because it's been a strong criticism of them in recent years. Pittsburgh doesn't pay their coaches and won't spend money on other proven agents. Tomlin needs to take his hands off and let the ACs the assistant coaches do their job. Noah had to change. Coach T needs to do it too as well. Yeah, well, it's, we saw Noel, assume such greater power by the end, to the point where he had too much power and had to go. Same thing with Bill Cowher. He assumed he got more powerful as his career in Pittsburgh unfolded. I think we're seeing that now with Tomlin. Does he have too much power? I don't know. I mean, it's funny that people were mad that he's so hands on now, when years ago people were mad that he was so hands off. So I guess he can't win. But the problem is he's not winning. They're not winning, and it's easy to open up yourself to criticism when you don't win. As far as them not paying their top, not paying top money for assistant coaches, I mean, you could argue that. I mean, it's, when was the last high profile guy that they brought in here other than Brian Flores, who was a fluky hire? He just happened to be out there. And it was a, spur of the moment kind of deal where he kind of fell into their lap. Other than that, I guess you have to go back to Mike Munchak was the last high profile guy they brought in here. So that's a good point. Why are they always just promoting from it within? Why are most of their coaches that they hire, why aren't they like young guys who have potential? It seems like they just bring in older guys as kind of retreads, or they promote from within instead of I don't know. It is frustrating. I will tell you that. All right, kids. It's 9:51. I think it's time for me to end things. The show, obviously. But it was great to talk with you tonight. And who knows, maybe the Steelers will get lucky and have a great game for once, a great overall performance, a complete performance, and shock the Eagles this Sunday. Fly, Eagles, fly no more, right? All right. You guys have a great weekend. Enjoy that game on Sunday. And as always, go. Let's have a great weekend.